smell in the air, and we ran at Pomona one year. Ran a 579 on nitrous oxide. I don't know if you were there that year, but we'd put nitrous oxide on the thing. Don't turn it on when you do the burnout. But he never told me that. So I go over, we started the car, and pulls up to the bleach box, and I turned it over, and when he stepped on the pedal, just flames engulfed the deal. Burnt my hair off, my T-shirt off. I mean, I was a blithering idiot. He goes out there, and I don't come out to get him, you know, and finally another guy goes out there to back him up, you know. He gets back there, and he said he saw me. He said, these are his words, he said, scared the shit out of me. He said, I started to shut the motor off. But, I mean, I was burnt plumb up. But on that run, we ran 579, 247 miles an hour, I think it was, which was, God, it held, the track record held for several years. And
was there anything left of the motor after the run?
we took the motor out, and we started trying to take the heads off, and they wouldn't come off. They were welded to the block. And they said, well, English said, throw it away. And I said, well, we don't want to throw the whole thing away. Let's take it back. Maybe we can get something out of it. And he said, no. I said, finally, he said, put it in a trailer if you want. So we went back, and every time I'd get some spare time, I'd start trying to get them heads off. I never did get them off. I bet it's still sitting there in the junkyard.
Amazing.
But it burned every piston in it, all 8. I've never seen that done before. It was a Milodon motor, and those Milodons were a little bit stronger than the Keith Blacks, I always thought, because a lot of times a guy would burn a piston, he'd kick the rods out too, and it didn't do that. But it was definitely a pass, I'll tell you that for sure. And we didn't run nitrous no more after. They said,
you didn't turn it on, huh?
I said, I ain't getting near it. That stuff's dangerous.
93 class winner. What was this one?
Well, that's not for winning nothing. That's the safety safari guys. When I took that car to the Winter Nationals of Melbourne Heath,
yes, they
sent me this. This is interesting. I'm proud of this deal.
Sure.
It's out there above my little funny-looking desk I got. There's a card. There's a little envelope. You can tell there's a card in it. Well, this is this trophy here, which don't really mean much, but the guys on the safety safari sent this to me, and Double R Randy Robbins, he signed it. Buster Couch, Jim Nelson, Peppy Hart, Jim Van Dyke, he's the head. A couple of kids from Australia, man and wife, Greg and Marg, they signed it. Tom Kennedy, Lefty, Grice. All these guys work on the safety safari, and they sent me this deal because of the Melbourne Heath thing.
They really enjoyed seeing the cars.
Bob and, pardon me?
That's for getting the car back.
Yeah, because these guys are all old drag racers. You know, every one of them.
Yeah.
One guy said, you should have been a bounty hunter. Because I found some of them things, and some of them are pretty tough to find. I'm kind of proud of this, though. But the reason the safety safari guys, I was on the safety safari for quite a few years. And after the Moonshiner deal, I just didn't really want to race anymore. By then, to be perfectly honest with you, it was starting to be too much work. And back, like in the old days, we used to have a lot of fun at the racetrack. I mean, you know, when me and Gary ran that AHRA circuit, we had a lot of fun. You know, during the week, we stayed at the fancy hotels by the racetrack and all that, but, I mean, on the weekend. But during the week, when we were traveling, it'd be like me and Gary and Kansas John and Jim Nickel and sometimes Mad Dog Cook and, you know, and sometimes the Greek. And We'd pass a lake, we'd stop and go fishing.
Great.
We'd be carried a deal to fry fish in his trailer, and I mean, we had a good time. It was a lot of fun.
Describe Gary Cochran to me as a person.
Horse's ass.
Right.
No. Yeah, he is. That's the truth. Gary's a weird guy. He's a pretty smart guy. I mean, anybody ever saw him race knew that. I mean, he immediately when he started running fuel, he came right to the top. He never won a national event, and we talked about that a lot. Why we would go to those national events and never do anything. I'm talking about NHRA national events.
Right.
And he said, you remember back there, right before we'd go to one of the spring nationals or the nationals or something, he said, we'd buy all new stuff. And I said, yeah, you'd always get a bunch of new stuff. He said, that's the problem. He said, we'd go in with stuff that we didn't know anything about and leave our stuff that worked in the trailer. And I said, you think so? He said, no, I know so. He said, Gene, we run 550, excuse me, 650s.
Right. Yeah.
He said, we run 650s every race we went to. Every junk track in the world, we could run 650s on it. Then we'd go to a good track, and we'd run 680s. He said, now why would we do that? I said, well, I figured we just missed something. He said, yeah, we had all new stuff that we didn't know anything about. That's what we missed. And before we could get it to running right, we had to learn something about it. And he said, we'd never be able to learn it that weekend. We'd have to go to another race. And because, see, we run 2 or 3 times a week.
Yes, you did.
You know?
How did you do that?
No problem. I even worked during the week sometimes. We stayed in Indianapolis. I'd had my truck with me, and he lived in and he had his wife and kids back there.
Right.
And they had one end of a duplex mobile home. It was a nice enough place, pretty expensive, but it wasn't what they were used to. And they would stay there during the weekend. We'd go off and race. God, sometimes we were gone a couple weeks, But we kept the car over at his uncle's house, and we'd work on it at night. And during the day, I'd go hang sheetrock. Because we did not make enough money. Expenses were so great that, plus Gary got in the hole real quick. Gary won the first 2 races that year, the first 2 Grand Americans.
Yes.
So then he decides that he's going to go pro. And from AHRA, who was in the world, he never did anything for anybody but himself. They start talking about people that's done things. Wally Parks has done things, never done nothing for nobody. And he made Gary some kind of offer about like $700 guarantee. Well, it insulted Gary. He's whipping all his best boys he could throw at him, and he's paying Kansas John about $1,400 or something like that. And because John told us, and he said, "The hell with you! I'll just go race for my money." So he goes down to West Palm Beach, didn't qualify. I think it was 3 times, if I remember right. I know exactly what happened up at the next race at St. Louis, but I believe they were malfunctioning the clock all 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. Then we went to St. Louis, and what they're doing, they're just showing him. That's all they're doing. And we went up and we qualified pretty good. In the first round, we raced the Greek, and it was the funniest thing I ever saw in my life. The Greek pulled up and just left, and our red light come on. Gary stopped the car, had hold of the brake and shut it off right there. The beams were not broken. And boy, I went berserk, and I went after the starter, and as it turned out, the guy became a great friend of mine. His name was, God, what was his name? He owned a bunch of karate schools in Dallas. The wrong guy for me to go after, I'll tell you that right now. But he had his orders. you know.
Unbelievable.
And the Greek was trying to help us. He knew what was going to happen. They had told him what was going to happen, so he just pulled up and left, thinking he might help us, because he got the same amount of money whether he won the race or didn't, I think, him and Garlitz. And, God, I can't think of that starter's name. Boy, he flipped me over his head. I grabbed him like that. Never
He put you over his?
lift me right over his head. I couldn't believe it. And then, to not hurt me, he kept me from falling. Boy, he was something, that guy. If you talk to Gary, ask him about that starter.
I will. You'll remember.
Oh, I can't. I'll think of his name before it's over with. I always do, but he, I mean, it didn't make no difference. And so we got back down there, and Candace John told me, I said, what are we going to do? And he said, you're going to go up there, you're going to kiss, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know who will see this, but somebody might. And you're going to play his game, or you're going to load that thing in that trailer and go back to California, because you ain't going to beat these people. I'm going to tell you that right now. He said, I had to start at the bottom, and you're going to have to start at the bottom. So Gary did that, and we never had no problem from then on.
Wow.
He went up and made his peace with and his bunch. Wish I could remember that starter's name.
It'll come to you.
Boy, he was not nobody to be fooling with. I'll tell you that. I found out a couple of guys, several guys come up to me and said, "Gene, you're out of your mind. You don't know that guy." But
You said you raced 2-3 times a week. What was your? I mean, those motors must have stayed together for you quite nicely. I mean, what is it that you had to do to maintain that kind of a schedule? What was your ritual?
just do everything right, check it. Like I said, Gary's very, very sharp. I believe, well, when he came back in 71, at the end of 71, and that's when he built the rear engine car, Gary never did anything. He bought a Donovan, you know, but
Yeah.
but the problem was he was always, it was money, always money. Gary's one of them kind of guys, given the right amount of money, I think he could have done anything he wanted to. I believe that. But
Why? What was it about him?
he thought things out. It's just like the fuel. When he started running fuel, people told him what to do, and he weighed what everybody told him, then did what he wanted to do. And the thing was successful. Real successful.
He won King of the Hill more than any other
Oh,
top
God.
tier guy
Every week.
during the time.
And it got sickening, you know? I mean, he beat everybody they threw at him. I can't remember the night he lost that deal. Maybe he didn't lose it. I think they quit. I don't think he ever lost it. I think they quit doing it finally. That's what happened. No, I don't think Gary ever did lose that deal. I really don't.
How do you do that? How do you do that in Southern California and get away with it?
You tell me. I mean, he had all them guys out there talking to themselves.